Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And today I wanted to spend a little time on the topic of forgiveness. And some of you may know my history with forgiveness, which was that I found it really hard. I struggled with it to the point where when I read somewhere that I think it was the author John DeMartini who wrote in one of his books that forgiveness is a self-righteous illusion. In other words, that in order to forgive somebody, you have to think you are the keeper of right and wrong, and therefore you can dispense forgiveness to these lesser beings. That's that self-righteous illusion that you are the judge and jury. It kind of is why forgiveness seems like a thing. And there's an example of that in the movie Schindler's List, where the head of the concentration camp, played by Ralph Fiennes, Liam Neeson sort of convinces him briefly that it is stronger and more manly to forgive because he has that power, and tries to convince him that he should just forgive them instead of shooting them. But eventually it goes horribly, horribly wrong, as you can probably imagine. But no matter how much I liked the idea that forgiveness was a self-righteous illusion and therefore not something I needed to do, I noticed that whenever I heard the phrase, "I forgive you," or even more strongly, "all your sins are forgiven," I wanted to cry. Like something inside me, it's like if something was trapped in a locked box and you thought it might be empty, and then when somebody said that, the box shook and you kind of could see there was something locked up inside. And so I kind of knew there was more to it, and I tried lots of different things, and it wasn't until I came across a talk by Sydney Banks, the enlightened Scottish welder. And he was talking about forgiveness. And he was essentially saying that all forgiveness is seeing the innocence of what you did in the case of forgiving yourself, or seeing the innocence in what someone else did. Seeing that they didn't know better, so they couldn't do better. And that if they had known better, they would have done better. If you had known better, you would have done better. And that helped tremendously for me personally. I could begin to see the innocence in many of the things I'd done that I felt kind of horrible about. And I could see the naivete, the innocence in what other people did that I found upsetting and thought they shouldn't have done. In fact, what I saw was, given the thinking they had that looked real to them, they were doing the best they could. I could see that given the thinking I had that looked real to me. Well, this is what this person's up to, and this is what's happening, and this is how it works, and therefore, what I did made perfect sense, was justifiable. It was just that the thinking I had that looked real to me wasn't real. It was thinking. And the thinking that other people have that looks real to them wasn't real. It was thinking, which meant that it could change. The world could look different in a heartbeat. And when the world looks different, we behave differently. There's a story the author Stephen Covey tells in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People about sitting on a train. And there was a man on the train, and he was there with his kids, and his kids were just running riot. They were screaming and making noise and bumping into people. And Stephen Covey, being a sort of, empowered man, he tells the story at the beginning of the book. He says he leaned over to the man and said, "Excuse me, are those your children? You really need to do a better job of managing them." And the man apologized, and he said, "I'm so sorry. We've all just found out that my wife, their mother, died, and I don't really know what to do." And Stephen Covey said, in a moment, his heart opened, any thought of anger or grudge against this person disappeared. Forgiveness was instantaneous because he could see the innocence. Now, that has made a huge difference for me, except when it didn't look innocent to me. When it looked to me like, oh, well, I should have known better. Or I did know better. Even when I did it, I knew it was a mistake. Or, they should have known better. They've been in that situation before. Anyone should know. And I struggled with those because even though I got logically, you can't know what you don't know, I didn't quite get it. and then I was listening to a talk by my colleague Mavis Karn, and she asked such a simple question. She asked people to think about something that they had done that they gave themselves a lot of grief about, that they found unforgivable. And she just said, would you do it again? If it happened now, would you do the same thing? Would you respond in the same way? And I don't know how that landed with the other people in the group, but for me, it had the same impact as that man talking about his wife had on Stephen Covey. It made the innocence obvious, because even though I might have said, oh, I should have known better, I did know better, I obviously didn't. Because if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't. And the beauty of seeing innocence is the moment you can see the innocence. The moment you can see you can't do better than you can do in the moment. In another moment you might do better, but you can't do better in the moment than you can do in the moment. Forgiveness has already happened. There's nothing left to forgive. One of the things I find so encouraging about this is that not only does it open the possibility up of all my sins being forgiven and of me being able to genuinely forgive what I see and experience as the transgressions of others against me. It can only get better as I see more, as I get to higher ground, as my consciousness expands. And I love the way that Mavis says it. She says, you will never know this little again. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.